Batman is one of the most popular superheroes of all time, recognized and beloved by hundreds of millions of people. And one of the reasons for this is because he is the closest that a person could be to a superhero. However, objectively, it is just as impossible, if not slightly less impossible, to be Batman as it is to be Superman. The workload Batman performs, both the pre-vigilante phase and as Batman himself, would most likely kill any person that tries to fully imitate it without proper genes, lots of rest and recovery, and a lot of money. And these are the reasons why I made a video on why Batman is actually a metahuman. But to keep it short, the lack of sleep, lack of food, and overall stress, along with the constant danger, would cause a tremendous amount of damage or kill the person after 2 to 3 years if you're lucky. So then how can I be Batman if the training and learning will either bankrupt me and or kill me? Well, that's simple. You want to emulate his skills to a reasonable amount. Now, physically speaking, Batman is better than every athlete in existence, as his skills are over any Olympic level athlete in strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, and coordination. Along with being 6'2" and 210 pounds, mainly muscle with a very low body percentage, that's why his abs are always showing out. And along with this, Batman's many physical skills, including the mastery of many different martial arts, and also parkour, gymnastics, acrobatics, rope climbing, rock climbing, and so much more. Now, I've seen Batman's training schedule because it's in the Batman files. It's pretty ridiculous. He pretty much takes no days off and has everything from heavy weightlifting like clean and jerks to metabolic conditionings like a 1.5 mile run, 21 kettlebell swings, 12 pull-ups, and sparring. And then he mixes it up every single day. Doing this every single day without a rest day and having a job like he does and going out as Batman would be impossible. Now, this might be pre-Batman Year 1 training or while he was studying in the many colleges that he did this workout. It would be better instead for a normal person to slowly work on their physical capabilities and increasing them ever so slightly, like a progressive overload, instead of doing a bunch of different exercises with a lot of volume every single day without any rest. For improving strength, I recommend heavy weight and low repetitions, and you want to progressively increase your weight by about 5 pounds total each time you work out. I like using Mark Ripeto's starting strength method because it seems pretty reliable in increasing strength as fast as possible. It focuses on compound movements like the squat, deadlift, bench press, and shoulder press, all with barbells. Along with strength, you also want to work on your stamina and endurance. Now, there is a difference between the two, with stamina being the maximum time the body can exert near maximum force for a certain physical activity, while endurance is defined as the maximum time the body can exert force or perform a physical activity. So it's not at max if it's endurance, like running, as opposed to maybe sprinting, which would be stamina. Now, usually this is increased by using aerobic workouts, but they are antagonistic to strength gains due to the muscle competing for the specific stress adaptation. Because running is a different stress to lifting heavy weights. You can do both, but focusing on a specific type of aerobic workout, like fighting, because Batman knows how to fight, so you might as well learn a bunch of martial arts as you work on your strength, using the two-factor model, which combines strength training and conditioning. As for the martial arts Batman uses, I made a video on this, and you can check it out after this, which explains what he would use in real life. It is also important to work on your explosive power, doing power cleans or dumbbell snatches, kettlebell swings, and increasing the weight as much as possible to be able to continue being explosive while increasing your strength and conditioning. But once again, I want to specify that you want to do this slowly so that you maximize your gains while minimizing any damages. This means that it may take a couple of years, like 10, 15, to reach your overall max without the use of any type of performance-enhancing drugs. It's also recommended to add pull-ups, muscle-ups, rock climbing, swimming, really anything that can be used in a real-life situation. And while you could learn handsprings, backflips, front flips, and other gymnastic movements, it's not very necessary in a real-life fight or for survival. On the other hand, parkour is actually useful. So if you have time and you want to switch up your conditioning that day, you may want to go for a parkour run instead, working on grips, handholds, different movements, planning out how to get from one place to the other, and so on and so forth. The next thing to focus on is eating, because it is an important factor in recovery and the use of strength, speed, agility, stamina, endurance, and really all body functions. Now, the Batman Files does give Batman's meal plan for at least one day. I believe it's Tuesday. And for his breakfast, he eats 6 poached eggs with artichokes and a pesto sauce. He also eats baked ham, fruit, orange juice, milk, 4 grams of branched chain amino acids, and fish oil. For lunch, salmon with ginger glaze, asparagus, Asian yam soup with onions, and more fish oil. And then for dinner, steak, spinach, and peppers, potatoes, and more fish oil. Now this is about 3,000 plus calories that he eats every single day, but I'm not 100% sure because there are no specific measurements for every single food. But I put all of this in MyFitnessPal using the closest thing that I could find on it, and it's very high in protein, pretty decent carbs, lots of fiber, lots of fat, a lot of saturated, and poly and mono unsaturated fat as well. No trans fats, a lot of cholesterol, high sodium, high potassium, high vitamin A, high vitamin C, and a decent amount of calcium. Overall, it's not a bad meal plan, but the sodium's a little high at over 4,000, very close to 5,000 milligrams. And the cholesterol is around 2,400 milligrams. Again, these are estimates, but it's pretty high for a single day. Now, Batman does also burn a shit ton of calories because of all his work, so this may not be enough protein or enough carbohydrates or enough fat. But he most likely also drinks protein shakes and meal replacements throughout the day as well, so it could be counting for more calories than the 3,000 that I recorded right now. For you though, this calorie count may be too little or too much because it depends on your eating habits and physical activity, along with your height and metabolism. These are all factors that tell you how much calories you burn every single day. So to find your ideal body weight can be difficult, but there's a lot of websites that give you a rough estimate on what you should be at your height. So for example, the Air Force's weight chart gives you height compared to the minimum weight you could be to the maximum weight you could be. I think that's a good starting point where you focus on the heavier side. So for instance, for 60 inches, it's a max weight of 141 pounds. Or for 73 inches, it's 208 pounds. And you don't have to follow it exactly to the T. You can go a little heavier if you so desire, or a little lighter. But this is a good rough estimate to show you that you should be this much weight at your height. For most people, your meal plan should consist of proteins, carbs, and fats, which are the macronutrients that are necessary to help you either gain or lose weight, depending on how much you eat of it. Protein, which is made of amino acids, is the foundation of building muscle and maintaining overall health. Since the body does not store protein, if you don't consume enough of it, it can cause the body to break down muscles and use this as its new source of protein. Carbohydrates is the primary energy source of the body. There's 2 types, simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Simple carbs or simple sugars usually are higher in sugar than complex carbs. Lastly, fats, which are also another source of energy, but along with it, it provides fatty acids that the body cannot make and helps absorb vitamins that are fat soluble like vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E. Now all 3 of these have a lot of other functions as well, but I'm not getting into that. You can look it up yourself if you so desire to know. As for things like sugars, sodiums, and vitamins and other micronutrients, look at the daily allowance as kind of the goal amount to take each day. But if you have some sort of problem where you cannot eat as much protein or much fat or much carbs or as much sodium or sugars, then do so accordingly. Sleep is another important aspect of having a physically fit body, and it's just as important as exercising well and eating well. This is because sleep affects the entire body. It releases more growth hormones and reduces stress hormones like cortisol, positively affects our immune system, appetite, breathing, blood pressure, and cardiovascular health, as according to newsandhealth.nih.gov on the benefits of slumber. The National Sleep Foundation guidelines that healthy adults need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night. And too much or too little sleep both have negative effects, increasing the risk of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and even death if done for a long period of time. Now for the mental portion of being Batman, because just like the physical aspects, there are a lot of mental aspects as well. So starting off, Batman is highly intelligent, having learned multiple different fields of study over the course of many years, having a great expert level understanding of most of it. In fact, an example of this is when he told the Martian Manhunter, when he first met him in The Batman, a 2004 animated series, that he knew about Martians to the point that he could teach a college level course on it. While this could have been a line said to make the Martian Manhunter uncomfortable, I also believe that Batman has probably thought of Martian invasion as one of the possible effects that he has to face off against at some point in time. And so he has learned as much as possible on alien invasions, especially because of Superman as well being an alien. And it's obvious that Batman is adept in forensic psychology, forensic criminology, blood spatter analysis, crime scene investigation, electrical engineering, forensic accounting, botany, chemistry, biochemistry, and so much more, because all this comes into effect for him being Batman, where he has to solve the crimes of different varieties like murders, arson, robbery, and so much more. And he might have to identify some sort of chemical component, find a cure, hack into a website or some sort of trust, and all this requires extensive knowledge in different fields of study. But for you personally, you don't have to learn forensic psychology or all this other stuff unless you have a job based on it or you are very interested in this. Instead, I recommend you either progress your own current job by getting a master's degree or a PhD if necessary to get a higher position, and or learn something new that is relatively useful in everyday life, like for instance another language. For example, Spanish is the second most common language in the United States, right after English. So if you live here, that can be beneficial because you can talk to more people and even get a job or get hired for more jobs because of this qualification. You can also learn something that you're passionate about and try to make it a career because you hate your job or dislike it at the very least. Like maybe you want to start doing self-defense and combat training because you want to be a fighter, or you want to be an artist, so you start painting or drawing or sculpting. No matter what you choose or when you choose it, you want to start off slowly so you're not too overwhelmed by the whole process and the entirety of it, and shoot for a midterm and long-term goal. For the long-term goal is you're exceptionally skilled at whatever you chose. And if you haven't reached your long-term goal after a long period of time, that's okay, because you can still keep going as long as you enjoy doing what you do. But if you dislike it, you can switch over to something else, a different field of study, a different subject. You can start out really easy by getting free resources on the subjects you want to learn. For instance, language-wise, I recommend Duolingo. It's free, it's easy to use, very friendly, and very fun, almost like a game. Or you can get a free PDF of a textbook on the subject you're learning about, or buy a used one. Another big portion of Batman's mental abilities is his memory. Because he's been hit like 100,000 times as his years as Batman, getting hit by big ass villains like Bane on Venom, Killer Croc, Clayface, Solomon Grundy, and probably along with this, a lot of crashes, falls, pipes to the head from regular criminals. And all this will definitely lead to CTE, which will lead to dementia for sure because of the extreme amount of times Batman's been hit in the head. So let's skip getting hit in the head 100,000 times and instead use memorization techniques to memorize important facts and theories as you see fit. Now there are definitely a lot of memorization techniques available, and I'm not going through every single one of them, but I chose a couple ones that I really liked. First one is the method of Loki, though I don't think I'm saying it right because I'm thinking of the Norse god, but this is a Greek technique, and the word Loki, or however you say it, means places. It's also commonly referred to as the memory palace. How this technique works is by associating information with a location that you're familiar with. For instance, a room in your house, like your living room, your bedroom, or your college dorm, or a favorite restaurant of yours. And then you build a mental route on where would you go first, where would you go second, third, fourth, and so on and so forth. So for instance, your living room, let's say you would enter through, go to the couch first, then the coffee table, then the TV, and then something else in your specific living room. And you assign each of these objects with a specific meaning that has information in it. So an example by magnetic memory method, you want to memorize 4 different words: hero, drill, spacecraft, music. So you can imagine walking into your living room and seeing the hero sitting on your couch, and you'll see a drill breaking your coffee table, a spacecraft on your TV with an astronaut punching said TV, while in the background, the rock band Kiss is playing. You keep doing this a couple of times, making it more complex and ridiculous. Each of the associations, you'll have an easier time memorizing the information you want. People have found success with it, and it's a fun way to memorize things, like for instance, all 52 cards of a playing card deck. Somebody memorized 4,000 plus numbers of pi using this technique. And as more information is needed to be memorized, you can expand said memory palace, or build more memory palaces of different locations. Another memorization technique is spaced repetition, and this is where you reinforce information that you just learned through spaced intervals that increase each time. The reason this method works is because as you learn something new, there is a natural downward curve that shows that you have forgotten a lot of the information as time passes, from an hour to 3 to a day to days to weeks. A great example of this curve at work is when you study for a test, and especially if you're cramming the day before. That's when you know the most of the subject possible, but after the test is done, you forget after like a week about half the subject, and after a month maybe even more than that. And this is because the information that you learned was stored into short-term memory and never into long-term memory. So while you may understand some of the basics of it, even after a couple years, especially if it was a complicated class, you're not going to remember the specifics like the formulas or the techniques. But when you repeat the information again and again in spaced intervals, you are spiking this downward curve, causing it to transfer into long-term memory, so you remember most of it for a longer period of time. Using acronyms is another great method of memorization, and what you do is you get a set of facts, like for instance, the order of the planets, and use the first letter of each of the planets to create a sentence. Here's an example: my very educated mother just served us noodles. That gives you Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Another acronym is PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which is a mathematical acronym for parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Finally, you want to focus on mental toughness, as this is a key component in helping Batman become Batman through all this grueling work and continue on facing against injuries, pain, hopeless battles, dangerous enemies, etc. Now, I don't recommend pushing past the pain of serious injuries or trying to perform something that's extremely dangerous or practically impossible without a good reason. For a normal person, mental toughness is going to be useful in conquering different skills, improving life, and a lot of the things that I said beforehand on how to be Batman, like the exercise, the training, the skill work, learning new languages or subjects, etc. Some of the components of mental toughness include challenge, control, commitment, confidence. You want to view these challenges that you have as opportunities to improve rather than obstacles that deter you. In a Jocko Willink motivational video, it said that when something goes wrong, that's good because there's more time to get better. Next is really believing that you are in control of your life and your choices. This helps your mindset in a positive way by letting you believe that you can do whatever you want as long as you put in the hard work. Now, while this is not realistically true to the fullest extent, as long as you try, there's a high chance you get something out of it, whether it's experience, skills, an actual job, etc. The next one is commitment, which is the ability to stick to tasks or plans and see them through completion. And when you commit to something, this may involve mental fatigue, physical fatigue, even pain, depending on what you're doing, but you have committed to yourself or to somebody else that you are going to finish this through. So whether it's waking up early, eating healthy, learning a new subject, doing better in school, whatever it may be, you're going to get through it. People like David Goggins, who make a lot of videos on this type of subject, on mental toughness and pushing through the pain, are a great example and something to follow to a certain extent, obviously, because he also jumps in the water with his hands tied, and I don't think everyone can do that or should do that. The last component of mental toughness is confidence. Confidence in yourself, the ability to believe that you can do it if you try. I think the saying goes, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you will land among the stars, by Les Brown. And this quote says to dream big, have high goals, and aim for the highest thing possible that you want. Because even if you fail, you'll still have good things as a result, even if it's not the big ass goal you set for yourself. So that's pretty much it on how to be Batman, in my opinion. And if you're gonna be Batman based off of my opinion, you should do the research yourself and verify what I have stated.